If I had to choose a poi spinner that is my favorite of all time, it's Tim Goddard. Hopefully, he needs no introduction, but just in case you don't know who he is, this man is absolutely prestigious with 2 and 3 poi. He's a hell of a performer and innovator. I've been a huge fan of his for more than a decade, so this episode is really special for me personally. We started a Patreon. Please help us with a $5 donation to help keep the lights on. The link is in the bio. With that being said, welcome to the Poidcast and enjoy the episode, my friends. Tim motherfucking Goddard, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for being our 11th episode on the podcast, man. How are you doing?
Yeah, doing good. My pleasure. Yeah, great to be here. On a nice sunny morning. Yeah.
I had messaged you about the podcast before I had even released my first episode, before we had even equipment, and I was like, hey Tim, would you be down to do an episode at some point? And you're like, easy. I was like, okay, cool. All right, so people actually want to.
Yeah, talking's easy, man.
Sweet,
not too much to do. Not like booking a show.
Yeah, for real. So Tim, take us all the way back to when and how you got started with poi.
Yeah, cool. Funny. I tell the story pretty often, but this is like a long time ago now. I just had a friend that did like some fire spinning stuff. He did like poi, nunchucks, and contact stuff. And yeah, I met him at like a pretty funny time in life as well. This is like just going into university and having a lot of spare time. And I was already doing some freestyle soccer stuff. So doing soccer tricks and playing a lot of music and drums and stuff like that. Anyway, he took a small group of us down to the beach and showed us like what he does, and we're like, that's pretty cool. And then started learning as quickly as possible. I think we spun fire that night, like as the first thing that we did, and then went off and like practiced tricks and stuff, and then like came back and did some more like beach fire spinning stuff, and then just got like very addicted to learning because it satisfied like a lot of stuff in my brain about like an activity or hobby or whatever. So it like engages musicality and like physicality and like thinking, like problem solving and physics and like a whole bunch of random stuff like all integrated in this one activity. So we'd then go to like skate parks every day, like at nighttime when like they're all empty, and do fire spinning in the bowl and get trapped in there with the fuel soaked on the walls and stuff. And,
that's dope.
All that kind of thing.
So did you spin fire the same day that you had started? Is that what I heard correctly?
I think that was, I can't remember the exact time because this was like 13 years ago. But I'm pretty sure we like saw him spin fire and he was like, have a go. And then, we just went from there.
Wow. Thrown into the fire, quite literally. That's awesome. Yeah. So when you were first introduced to poi, did you find anybody that inspired you back then on like the internet or locally in Australia? Who are the people that were inspiring you like earlier in your career?
Well, back then it was like there really wasn't much internet presence. So this is in the days when like YouTube didn't exist really, or like wasn't a platform that no, it didn't exist. Yeah, I can't remember when YouTube was released, but that was like not then. Anyway, it wasn't being used as like a platform to share knowledge. There was Home of Poi forums, and there was their little tutorial list of videos. So it was in like super early days of the video format being shared. So I didn't use the internet at that point in time to find new things until like, maybe a year or so into spinning. So I got a few tricks from there, but it wasn't like a inspirational thing. It was just like, these are some things you can try.
Interesting.
So locally we had quite a few very talented people. So I don't know if you know Brett Starr, who does like double contact stuff. I'm
actually not familiar.
So he's quite prolific in the staff on staff contact type world. And he was based here, and he spun poi before he spun contact staff, and had a lot of really good tricks that I learned from him, as well as Pineapple Pete is an Adelaide-based guy as well. And he spun poi a lot with G and a bunch of people that were traveling around that time. So he's got a video called the Air Rap Reloaded, which is with G doing like a bunch of air rap tricks and stuff. Anyway, learned a lot from him. He's quite intellectual dude, into a lot of, really interesting old school poi spinning stuff.
Nice.
And they were kind of the local guys that I learned a lot from, and then just by messing around a lot with my friends that were learning at the same time. But pretty quickly after that, then YouTube kind of came in as a platform that I was learning from and seeing stuff from overseas. So that would have been when, I saw all those old videos of like ᴫᴄᴅᴅᴇ and Utah and like all that kind of stuff. That was like the next like international inspiration type thing. And then finding videos from like Mel's really old video, me and my shadow, and a few other things that were starting to get shared. This was kind of when, the YouTube algorithms and stuff were a bit different, and it was quite straightforward where like you'd see the popular shared like comment videos rather than like things being pushed by like paid advertising and stuff like that. So you'd actually see the popular videos and they'd be popular because of their actual engagement. So you just see the good stuff naturally through that kind of means.
Interesting. Shout out to Mel. Before the podcast, I had asked you to send me 2 of your favorite poi videos from artists, and you sent me Red Pants, and it's just so fitting because this episode will release directly after Mel's episode, and y'all know, if you haven't watched Mel's episode and you're watching this episode, go back and watch Mel's episode. It's so good. Red Pants is an absolutely legendary video, and we'll talk about him in a bit when we talk about Russia. But we'll just kind of keep it back to your early origins for now. So, do you remember what was the first like flow arts festival that you attended? Do you remember what that was?
Yeah, so in Australia, there's not many. So I went to SpinFest, which is like the one that was existing at that time. And there was another one that I didn't know about called Spun Out in Perth as well. But SpinFest was near Melbourne on the East Coast, kind of south. And that was a place for, at that point in time, it was a fire spinning festival. But it's now like a fire spinning and circus festival. So it's kind of diversified a bit and become like a slightly different environment. But that would have been the first festival I went to. Can't remember the date, but it would have been like three years into spinning, maybe something like that.
Okay. So, and which brings me to my next question. Predator Poi came out 10 years ago. At the time of its release, did you have any idea that video would be such a game changer in terms of your influence and status in the poi world? Did you have any idea how big that was? Because it was your 100th poi video on YouTube. Correct me if I'm wrong. Was it not?
That sounds about right. I don't actually remember. I probably would have counted the videos that I had and like made a point of that. At the time, for me, it was like I hadn't seen a video that was kind of produced about poi spinning stuff. So I like found a friend that was doing video work at the time, and but this is like kind of a step after. Like I had dreadlocks and looked like the Predator, so my friend was like, "Oh, you should do a video because you look like Predator," and I was like, "Oh, cool, yeah, I should do that." And we then went like location scouting around and found this quite like normal touristy spot in Adelaide, which is a Morialta Falls, like a waterfall area where people go for hikes all the time. And we just strolled around there looking at places, being like, oh yeah, you can fit that there. Oh yeah, this would be a nice shot. Try this out. So I got to like, pick a bunch of combos, choose a bunch of shots, and then just go and do like a proper video shoot, like, spot by spot, and plan it out.
Proper indeed it was, sir.
Yeah. Well, it was like proper enough, right? Like it's not, A-grade cinematography or whatever, but it's fun.
For the time. I mean, to my knowledge, there really was not any other poi video that was done in the way that you were doing this, because you were showcasing not only a lot of tech, but there's also a long intro, and y'all were at a really scenic place, and there was theme behind it. I mean, it was just very well done, right? And not a lot of people were doing 3 poi back then, and obviously the way that you were doing it, you were already crushing with 3 poi.
I don't know. I guess like my inspiration was from like the videography and like cinematography kind of background, and like I said, like my friend who helped me film it was going through like film school at the time, and you know, so I was comparing it to things like that where like the cinematography is like the main focus, and it's like yeah, cool, it's pretty good with that. But yeah, definitely something I hadn't seen in like poi spinning videos, and yeah, thought that should be done, so I did it. But I'm not sure if I knew what it would do exactly. Yeah, in hindsight, kind of funny.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I mean, even when I put out my question, because we'll get to the segment later, but whenever I throw up on my Instagram story, you know, what question should I ask Tim, and I have, you know, fans write in and ask questions. Predator Poi was mentioned in the questions that I wrote in, so it's just still. I mean,
funny.
people who have been around for that long remember how important the video was. There was just it was just very a standalone video in terms of tech progression, you know, everything like that. So
yeah, that scene just now from before that took like half an hour of like, because they can't see in that mask really well. It's just like these two little like bits of eyeballs and no peripheral, and then trying to like catch under the leg like during that was
dude, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. Like we spent the entire day there trying to get all these shots.
So that pattern that you just did there with the arm tracing carryover, it's funny. When this video came out, we had a big group of friends in Salt Lake, and all of a sudden I just saw everybody doing that pattern, that little body tracing carryover pattern, and I haven't seen that done in so long now, but it's just hilarious, the fact that people see a video like en masse and just try to take pieces away from the video. I mean, crazy.
Yeah, there's a huge ripple effect like from stuff like that. And yeah, I think that's like one of the very few, like I don't think I have very many unique like tricks that have contributed to the poi world, which is kind of funny in a broad sense. But that particular one I think was one of them. And yeah, it's funny to see that like ripple out to like other people, and then like eventually you go to a festival and someone shows you this trick and you're like, oh yeah, that trick, yeah, I know that one. Like I sent that out like, you know, 5 years ago, and yeah, cool to see it again. Yeah, nice.
So cool. Damn. Yeah, that must be a trip. I sorry, I was shook by you saying that you have not contributed a lot as far as trick. Well, I disagree, but I respect your opinion.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's pretty, I guess it's a funny thought, but yeah, just like a discrete, like unique poi trick or something like that. It depends how you define like poi trick or whatever. Like I think I've messed and altered with like a lot of stuff and created new things from that. But yeah, as far as like base level like poi trick creation, I think that's like a really rare thing that doesn't actually happen very often. And yeah, I don't think it's easy or common or whatever. Anyway, from that perspective,
Totally. So you actually, now, I mean, on the subject of poi videos, you have my favorite tech poi video of all time. It is the 2019 compilation. It's 53 minutes long. I watched the whole thing yesterday, and I've probably seen the entire thing all the way through probably about 10 times. When are we gonna get another video of this style? Joey will play it here in a few. He's gonna let this shit run because it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet, huh? Yeah, I mean, like it's the combination of like a lot of work, which is why it kind of is dense and full of really interesting material. And you know, I don't know, yeah, it's got a lot of novel ideas, and it's from a time in life when I had way more time to practice and be in the flow of like creating content, for like lack of a better way to phrase that. But you know, I was quite free because I wasn't quite working full time. I was just getting into full time work at that point. So I had lots of time to hang out in this car park specifically, which is in the city, which is one of my favorite training spots.
Yeah, man. I was gonna ask you about this parking lot, this parking garage. Why level 8?
Well, I think that's the second from the top. The top is where there's a bunch of like kids that hang out smoking like all the time. So I just didn't really hang around there so much. And this spot had really good light because it's on the northern side, so it's always quite bright. Anyway, I don't know what else it is about this parking lot, but it was just quite central in the city. I was living on this side of town, so it was like close to walk into and get to. But yeah, I don't know. I just got a lot of I don't know what you'd call it. I think there was the time and space in life for the inspiration, and then the car park lent well to like all these like big, long, symmetrical angles. So it was like
Totally.
inspiring to kind of make stuff there, and yeah, interesting from like a content creation point of view.
Totally, man. Yeah, and I caught a story of yours a while back. I think it was like, it was probably like 2 or 3 years ago. I don't even remember, but you had posted a video of the security dude. You were like filming a video when the security guy walked by. And do you remember what he said? What did he say to you?
He had like seen me practicing there like a lot, like over 2 years or something. And he was like, "Don't you get bored of that?"
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. That's so funny.
Actually, no, I'm not bored. Yeah.
Oh man, that's so funny. He had no idea who he was talking to. A world-renowned fucking legend. He's just like, man, do you ever get bored of playing with those things? You're like, nope, nope, I don't.
I mean, like, I don't know. Locally, I don't really have that kind of reputation so much. Like, well, people in the community like know me as who I am or whatever, but people outside of the community, they don't know what Poi is to start with. So yeah, it's like an irrelevant status that doesn't apply to kind of local people. Yeah.
It's so funny though, yeah, because you walking down the street, nobody, I mean, very few people would recognize you, but like in the grand scheme of things, like in your community, you're a celebrity. I mean, really, it's but it's interesting that we can have levels of notoriety within the specific thing that we do, and meanwhile, nobody, just your average Joe has no idea. It's just hilarious.
Yeah. Like I'm quite famous in the niche, obviously, but outside of that, it's like pretty irrelevant. I'm quite like people recognize me in Adelaide just because of like how I look, not because of like anything else. So
sure.
I have that walking around the street thing where people recognize me and they're like, whatever. Like I go into a cafe and they'll be like, "Oh, I've seen you before," and like that's really normal. But yeah, not because of like voice spinning or anything.
That's so
funny. There's a bit more now because I've been in Adelaide and like kind of more stuck here because of various reasons from like COVID stuff. So now I've been doing heaps more fire shows here and stuff like that. So people are recognizing me as like the fire guy, and that's a bit more common.
Super cool. Yeah. That's super cool. Yeah, and Adelaide's pretty large. I mean, it's a fairly large city. So I definitely want to make it out at some point. I got to visit Australia.
Depends what you compare it to. It's like a smaller one for Australia, but it's I don't know how many people. Yeah, anyway, you can look up the stats. Compare it to your own town. But yeah.
Damn, dude. Yeah, this is the reason that this is my favorite TechPoi video of all time is because of the diversity of how much shit you have to show in this. It's just truly inspirational. You have so many unique. Oh, dude, I'm sorry. I just got stumped in my mid-sentence because that is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
How long did it take? So when you're filming clips, like some of these more difficult ones that you film, how like do you have an array like of this took me 1 try on this one, it took me 30 tries on this one took me an hour. Like are you pretty quick with your videos, or do you like how does that happen?
Yeah, it'd be hard to recall, I think, but the majority of them, like I'll be trying to like film the thing for a while and I'll be like, I've been doing this for ages and I'm getting like super gassed, like trying to, get a trick to work. And then I'll go like look at my phone recording and be like, it's only been like 5 minutes. And then I'll do another like 5-minute session and I'll get it. So most of the time it's like within, I would say, half an hour that I get one of these clips. But
wow. Yeah, I mean, I've had some of the more really difficult and longer clips that I've tried to get have taken me anywhere from very rarely is my first try, but sometimes it's, an hour of trying to get a 1.5-minute video that's just really tough. And maybe I'll get a draft that's okay, but it's not as clean as I want it to be. And I see some of the stuff that you do and I'm like, there's no way that he did that first try, but I guarantee you that you do sometimes on some stuff.
Some of them, definitely some of them. I mean, and I don't know how you go about creating like the idea before you get to filming a clip, but for me, it's usually there's one trick at the start that I want to film. Everything else is just free flow and then finish, and that's it. So getting the new thing is always like the first part, which is always the hardest. And then once that's done, it's just like a bunch of random stuff, like whatever's going on now.
I do a really similar thing. Usually the opening
Yeah.
is the hardest part, because if you put the hardest part midway through, you get burnt out on the beginning. Like it's yeah. Oh my lord! There's no way he did that on first try. There's no way, dude.
Nah, that would have been like fourth or fifth or something. Yeah.
Oh my
yeah, I do
God,
have a lot of
like,
I have pretty much all this raw footage somewhere, and I have no idea what to do with it. But anyway.
Yeah, so good, so good. It has been a dream. Someday I want to see this damn parking lot. It is just iconic, dude.
So funny. I took Bo here when he's been to Adelaide a few times now, which is like super nice.
Did you
we've gotten
really?
to hang out and chat a bunch. But yeah, took him up there and was like, yeah, this is car park. He's like, yeah, cool. And then we
dude, I would have been freaking. I would have been like just nerding out about just the I mean, because you've been filming here for a while now. You have filmed quite a bit here.
Yeah, I filmed a lot of videos there. So like this compilation from 2019 is probably the bulk of it. Like the main time that I was training there. Before that, I would have been there a little bit, but I was only living in the house that was close to there for like 3 years or so. Yeah. So then after that, it's been like I haven't had as much time to get there, and now I've got the studio for Dragon Mill, so I mostly train there now when I do.
Yeah. That's another thing that I was going to ask you. How did Dragon Mill form? Like how with the progression of that, and what role have you had in that?
Yeah, so that's my business, and it was to combine all the stuff I was doing at that point in time, which was like teaching, performing, and like doing events and stuff like that. So this is 2016 that I decided to do that. Just before that, at that warehouse where that started, a friend of mine, Brett, who I was talking about earlier, was teaching fire spinning classes there. And I was covering him for like, a semester or whatever, so like 6 months or so. And then decided to like make that more of a thing and try and get a lot more people learning, and make like curriculum-based education for people learning fire spinning stuff. So that all happened around that same time in 2016. So cool. And then since then, just
and it's exploded. It's exploded, man. Yeah. I mean, so Fire Festival is something that you do in Australia, and just seeing the progression of this project grow and become more prolific, I'm sure, in Australia. I mean, it's just it's beautiful to see somebody doing it, man, and the professionalism, how far you've come with the actual show has just been really fucking cool to watch.
Yeah, I almost sent you when you were asking for videos of like myself, my favorite videos or whatever. Almost sent you just the Empire group show from this previous year, because it was like a bit of a pinnacle of work to get that all functioning. And yeah, we got some really good video of it last year. And yeah, it's like a lot of what I've been doing is just these big events and stuff, like particularly lately, which has taken a lot of my time outside of work, and then haven't been training as much because of all this like event management stuff and like being on site and building stuff. Yeah.
You are sharing a very similar kind of struggle right now as ᴘᴜ, because he was kind of sharing he talked a lot about the same kind of stuff. I feel like you guys just get to a level to where it's like, okay, well now I'm just organizing, I'm teaching, or I'm just these big events that we're throwing. So I think that just speaks to how much you achieved in Poi, that you're at that place now where you're organizing and creating these large events. Just goes to show. Yeah, super cool, man.
Yeah, I think I don't know, I guess it's a bit of a philosophical choice as to like, what is the best impact you can have on like either your community or like your lifestyle, and where's like best to put your time into, basically. I guess you get to a point where you're like, I could just like keep learning stuff, but that like gets slower and slower and harder, which is fine and like also really enjoyable still. But the value that you can give to your community is in lots of different ways, and not just that one way of like developing skills and traits and sharing that. And that impact, I think, gets smaller over time. And then the impact you can have on local community through other ways is like quite big. And then same with like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's my mindset where I like kind of put my attention onto like where I can make the most difference and do something new, and whether that's possible to do. And yeah, I've just been like putting some attention into doing events and running that bigger type stuff. And then yeah.
Beautifully said. I think that's a really good point. Just you trying to make a difference in the best way that you can. And yeah, you're right. I mean, I think that as far as a trick and skill sharing, I mean, you have done your part, sir. I jealously
want, but yeah.
I want more. I always want more, but I want you to be doing what you think is is right for you in this time in your life. And it's just I mean, we have a lot of shit to catch up on. I mean, I would watch this video every year, and I feel like I'd catch something new, because you have a different skill set, or you have a different area of poi that you're going through, and then you see something, you're like, oh, that's where that fits in. Like, I see now. So
yeah, totally. And whenever you're like learning something, there's that separate process of integration and putting it into your skill set. And then whenever you're doing that, you're at a different point in your like poi journey, or what's like fresh in your mind as like available tricks or available spaces to integrate something. And then if you do that at another time, then definitely you'll get more out of the same thing again.
So that trick that you're doing, that's the waist wrap no beat, I feel like every time I see that trick, I think of you, because it's just it's iconic.
Yeah. That's I guess another one, the the little waist thing.
It's so sick.
It's super fun. Yeah, I'm glad that got popular and prolific, and I think it's great. Very visual,
dude,
Yeah.
So we had mentioned 괂 a little bit, and we had talked a little bit about this. Is it spin? What is it called? Spin Circus?
Spin Fest. Spin Circus Festival. It's kind of changed names. Everyone calls it Spin Fest still, because that's the shortest, easiest way to refer to it. Yeah.
So how was it having 괂 come out and be a part of the collaboration with you, and then also do his own act, and just kind of being there as the poi juggler that he is?
Yeah, so good. I mean, he's an inspirational human who, like, obviously has put an incredible amount of hours. I don't know if you spoke to him about his like training regime, but I'm pretty sure he's put more hours into poi than anyone has at this point, as far as like dedicated training. Not many people do that. Not many people train 8 hours a day as a standard. Like it's pretty uncommon and evident in who he is and what he can do. And great to see that in person and see the result of that training and the consistency that he can execute all the stuff because he's training so regularly. Super inspirational. And to see him in person was like almost as expected. Like, he is what's on the package, but also great to meet him as a person and see his like, silly little French personality, and meet him as a person, and it's wonderful.
Yeah, totally, dude. But I see comments sometimes like, oh, I could never do that, and I think that's very rarely the case. It's not so much could never, it's would you ever. So it's would you or could you train 8 hours a day for your whole life? You probably could, but do you want to? And the case is no for almost every single other person in the world.
It's funny.
So I'm glad that you mentioned the regiment that this man has. I mean, and it is evident, because you don't learn how to do 5 poi no beat cascade overnight, because that shit is ridiculous.
It takes time, but it's also cool to see that the run-on effect of him doing all of that is that other people then see that it's possible, even if you might have known it was possible before, but you put in the work and do the training lets you know that that's achievable and whatever. And now there's a bunch of people that are beginning to like flash and qualify and run 5 poi as well, and it's great to see that ripple effect from him as well.
Totally huge ripple effect. I feel like in a lot of the ways, I mean, you have created for 2 poi at least, and I will say for 3 poi as well, you've created a huge ripple effect for a contact and for your style of spinning, because one of the reasons you're I mean, you're probably like my favorite of all time, I will say at this point, but one of the reasons that is the case is because of how versatile your style is with contact, with tossing, with spinning patterns, with 3 poi. I mean, you checked all the boxes, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Like, yeah, for me, it's just doing what I thought was interesting looking or feeling, and yeah, just kind of dedicating myself to that style of whatever it is that I wanted to learn. And I think I've got like a separate part of myself that just is really interested in design and like similar to Mel in some ways, like
Mm-hmm.
because he, for me, when I started out and was learning from him, was like his style of poi spinning was really cool and I really loved it and wanted to integrate that into like what I do. Um, and then later on meeting him, like realizing that his, this kind of person that thinks in like design terms, and then realizing that I have like that similar quality or trait.
Yeah.
And then when you like then apply that to like a physical medium or art form or whatever, you always like have this thought of, does it look appealing, or why does it look appealing, or like what about it like feels appealing to look at? And it applies to like everything, not just the tricks or whatever, but the framing or like the colors or like all of that kind of stuff, like integrates into the same thing, because design is like a holistic principle. And yeah, it just makes sense to like apply that to a visual medium.
Yeah, no, I really like that you make that connection, because funny enough, you talk about visual, or aesthetically pleasing patterns or whatever. You're actually a tattoo artist. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, that's my day job now, is doing tattoo, which is fun. And like I drew when I was much younger, so like as far as number of years that I've been like thinking in that way, then yeah, it's gonna be more than poi spinning. So.
Wow. And
Yeah.
so did you I wish I had this pulled up. Did you draw out, do you remember when you made the list of the 2.1 hand grips?
It was just one-handed grips. Yeah. But yeah, I
Yes,
remember
yes.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. So you drew all that, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I had a feeling that you did. It's just so well done. I'm gonna have to find that and share it.
Yeah. I think it's relatively hard to find, but it's on I think it's on the ∞ Facebook and on the Instagram as well. Anyway.
I know it's on Instagram. It's back there though.
Yeah.
Funny.
Yeah, so good. This is like the final car park video, basically. Like put everything in there from the car park, the shot. Yeah.
Yeah, this one was so good. I think we're gonna end it at the or just cut it at the part where you're longboarding and juggling.
Yeah.
Right here. It's so good. It's so cool, dude.
Yeah. It was a good view of the city as well. This is Adelaide.
Yeah.
It's like the
Yeah.
cultural precinct, and yeah, lovely spot. Yeah.
So cool.
Funny. We shot more recently a video for Subaru, like a cinematic promo thing, and they had the guys come out with their like fat cameras and yeah, did some fire stuff on that bridge as well. That was pretty fun.
Oh, badass. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So you did a video compilation of South Korea that was also very well edited. And you threw in so many of these clips of like what you were doing throughout your time in Korea and throughout your trip and your journey. Do you think that just kind of falls into your taste as an artist, where you said that find it more enjoyable, more easier to watch a longer form video of tech poi when you're kind of break it up with little clips of your trip and all the fun things that you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, I guess like for me, all videos, you kind of start with an intention about them, and it like if you don't, then whatever. Like you make a video that is what it is. But for those videos, I mostly just wanted to make a record for myself, and yeah, I mean, like I wouldn't expect them to be that popular per se, just because they are like longer form to begin with, and longer form videos are like harder to watch. They like take more time. You have to plan to like sit down and view them and all that kind of thing. So yeah, for me, it was just more of a record. It's got all the stuff in there, and then if people are dedicated to watching it, whatever, like they can watch it. That's great. But for me, it's like these are all the memories I had from that time, and I'll try to make like a pretty memory if possible, and then kind of
no, that's so nice. I really I like that you're releasing it because that's what you want to release and not what you think is going to be the most popular or be whatever viewed the most. You're putting out the things that you really want to do, and I think that's why they're so popular.
Yeah, It's
which
kind of
is
ironic, but
super cool. Yeah, right.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, but I just we're not gonna watch the one of South Korea one, but y'all go watch it. It's so good. It's so good. He had the
Yeah,
Russia one is so cool. The South Korea one is so cool. So actually,
yeah.
that's the next topic that I want to get into is Russia. Tell us. I
Woo.
mean, there's so much to talk about in terms of your trip over there and the time and the people that you got to hang out with. But yeah,
Yeah,
tell us about the Russia trip. How was it hanging out with just such amazing artists over there?
yeah. Real hard to summarize quickly, but
Yeah.
in general, obviously it's a long video, so there's like lots of stuff to watch, and like the time there was great, and there's a lot in that itself. As far as the context going there, that's probably a bit more broad, but yeah, like I originally watched a lot of these videos from Mel. This kind of ties into the Predator Boy video as well, because when that was popular, I would look at the YouTube analytics and be like, where is this popular, or like why is it popular, and try and figure out a bit about it. And there's lots of reasons, I guess, but the music being like metal instead of like electronic music was like a big point of difference compared to lots of other videos at that time. And a lot of that music, that video was popular in Russia, I think partly because it was a bit countercultural and like not the same as those other videos that were released with people in their lounge rooms just spinning to like psytrance or whatever. And it had a big point of difference for those reasons.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then looking at the analytics, it was popular in all these like weird countries that I had never thought of before as like places that people would spin for or watch videos or whatever, except for, you know, those little videos of Mel or like other people that were already popular.
Mhm.
Anyway, that video contributed to like some notoriety in like Eastern Europe. And then when I went to America the first time in 2014, and I was there for 3 months, while I was there, I got invited over to Kiev, the KFF in Ukraine. That was largely because of Lara, who had seen those videos, and people in whatever in Russia were like, yeah, this is a cool thing, we should get him over sometime. And then she saw the opportunity to recommend me to the Wayfest organization team, to the KFF organization team. And then, yeah, they invited me over. I got a passport, got a visa while I was in the US, and flew out from the US to Ukraine to go there for like 2 weeks and go to this festival and do a show and meet all these people, and then fly back to the US. And yeah, and that trip was incredible. So on YouTube, you can find all those. There's like 4 or 5 parts of videos from Ukraine, and they've got a lot of that. Yeah, that trip in there, and that was a very life-changing experience. For a lot of reasons. But anyway, that was like the first kind of connection to that like Russian, Ukrainian, Eastern Europe community, and then from that, then later got invited over to Belarus and went there. This was like maybe a year later, and did a show in Minsk, and then flew back to, this was like straight from Australia to Belarus to Australia, so like super expensive for them, but yeah, anyway, great experience for me.
They wanted you there, man, and it was a huge show. Oh my gosh, that show was huge.
Yeah, the one in Minsk was really interesting. That was like, the organization was like quite different and quite like corporate and strange. And yeah, anyway, then I overstayed my visa, was there illegally for a little while, and then came back, and then for lots of funny reasons, interesting trip. But like didn't get to go to Russia. So those 2 trips were kind of funny, or like I don't know, coincidental to some weird world events. So in 2014, that was when there was conflict at the border, or in like Kiev, in the city there. So like a few months before, there was like all these barricades and things set up, and there was like, I don't know, I assume like gunfights and that kind of interaction in the city. And then yeah, it was probably like 6 months later that I went there for KFF to Ukraine and saw all the like barricades and memorial and whatever stuff going on. So that was just one part of that like Russian-Ukrainian conflict that just allowed a lot of Russians to go to that festival. So I didn't get to meet Mel, and I was like, oh, sad. And then went back to Belarus, also didn't get to go to Russia, oh, sad. And then came back home. And then, yeah, finally in 2018, I got invited over to Wayfest. So this is another festival that Lara and a few others had like recommended me to get booked and flown over and go and do this festival, and that was sick. It was a pretty short amount of time, so this is the Korea-Russia trip that I had, where I went to Korea for their summer festival in the city in Seoul, and then flew over to Russia to go to Wayfest, which is near Moscow, like in the eastern part of Russia. And spent a few weeks there for this festival and hanging out in Moscow and Nizhny Novgorod, another city that's closer to where the festival is. And that was great. Like, I had a super good time. Met Mel, met a bunch of these other Russian spinners that I'd like known about for a long time, and then a bunch of new people that I didn't know about, but are awesome like members of the community there. And they've got a really like strong, tight knit fire community that spreads across like quite a large area, like all the major cities, and like from Siberia to like St. Petersburg or whatever, like all these quite distant places, but everyone knows each other and they're all part of this fire community, which is cool. So that was a shorter time, and then came back home, and then went over again in 2019 for the same festival that invited me back, and I was like, that's amazing. Like, why invite me again, like, for the next year to like do this thing again? So
I wonder why, Tim. I wonder why, Tim.
Well, year after year, it's like, it seems like you'd want to spread your investment or something. I don't know. Just a funny,
I understand what you're saying,
mindset.
But man. I mean, they have a great deal of respect for you, because they love Poi in the same way that you do, and so they understand. They see you and your art and your style and want you back. And it's just so cool, man. The Russian compilation, it was just, again, one of my favorite videos, because you got to see not only the performance and the show and all the badass performances that happened by so many cool artists over there, but you also got to see all the little fun, like, partying moments that you guys were having, like the little dance parties and the little like burns that are just kind of, you guys fucking around. And it just looked like such a cool time. All the goofy videos of Mel and his little glasses and his little beanie and stuff, and all the funny shit that he was doing. It's just, it was a really wholesome video. You guys should go check it out if you haven't seen it. It's super funny.
Yeah, so 2019, that was when I went for then like about 3 months. So I spent a lot more time there, and went to like 3 different festivals and taught a workshop in each city that I went to. And just spent a lot more time in that kind of, I don't know, environment, like just being in like Russia proper, like spending time in like Siberia, then catching a train for 2 days up to 3 days up to St. Petersburg, and like living on the train by myself for that like few days or whatever, and then going to like the next community. I like lived with Mel for like a week up in St. Petersburg. Went to Crimea, which is like that little peninsula that's like disputed kind of territory between Russia and Ukraine. Went to a festival there that was sick, and got to perform in front of like Culprit doing a DJ set, who's this like amazing like UK producer that I'd followed for like 10 years or whatever. And he just happened to be at this festival, and I was like, sick, all right. And then did a set there. So there's that, I don't know if you saw that clip that's like in the dust on this dance floor, and I'm like spinning sword and then Poi, and it's all this like loud ass music. That set, which was like one of the best feeling fire sets I've ever done for whatever reason. And I don't know, just that trip had so much incredible stuff like tied into it. And really, I don't know, just a holistic experience that was very positive, and very good time.
No, I bet it's really surreal for you to be in that position, with people that you respect greatly, and you're traveling so broadly. It's really fucking cool. And so how was the language barrier an issue for you at all over there?
I mean, like in the same way you would expect it to be. Like, obviously I can't just have a big conversation with like someone that speaks just Russian.
Of course.
There were quite a few people that did speak some English, and then a few people that speak it really well. So there's enough people around that want to have that experience be good, that you have a lot of help to do that. Particularly at the festivals, it was really well supported. Like at Wayfest, I had like the first time I went there, like 2 dedicated translators that would like help me and walk around with me and hang out, which was sick.
That's so cool. Oh my
and then, yeah, eventually I'd like learn some of the language or whatever, and you'd spend enough time with people that they get more confident in trying to speak English as well, which is that's probably the main barrier. Isn't like that people can't speak much English. It's more so that they are too shy to speak the language that's, you know, foreign and hard. And yeah,
sure,
totally makes sense. Like if, you know, I spent some time trying to learn Russian as well for a little while, and it's so intimidating when you like then approach like a native speaker and you're like, okay, let's try this, and then they say like a sentence and you're like, I'm way out of my depth and like can't do this. And yeah, it's scary, and I totally get that. And yeah, I'm grateful to have the time there to, you know, ease that barrier a fair bit. And you know, they're there with their friends, and some of their friends speak English and whatever. It's like gets easier and easier. So not so much a barrier. And then like in public or whatever, like, you know, all the utility and amenity and stuff like that, you learn how to use without necessarily using language as well. So like, you know, using money or like using the metro or whatever is pretty straightforward. It's like similar to every other metro system in the world.
Right. Yeah, Mel, when we had Mel on the podcast after the episode off air, he was like, man, I was so nervous because like my English is terrible, or whatever he said. He was like, it's not good. And I'm like, Mel, we just got through an hour and a half, buddy. Like you did pretty well.
Nah, his English is great. Yeah, he's a very sweet guy and very like conscious of it, but his English is awesome.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, so funny.
And he's so curious about learning too. It's I think that kind of makes you good at learning a language, is being like very curious about language in the first place. And he's definitely got that. Yeah,
totally. So we're gonna get into the segment of the podcast, one of my favorite segments. We're gonna have Joey ask the question or questions. I don't know if he's picking one or two this time, but we're gonna have Joey ask the question where fans write in questions and they want us to ask you live. So we're gonna go ahead and turn it over to Joey whenever he's ready. He's just setting up his little camera audio situation here.
Sweet.
What's going on, Tim?
Hey, not much. How you doing?
Good. Okay, so today's question is from some poi. Their ad is, how do you think/feel about the shift from YouTube to Instagram? From YouTube to Instagram to TikTok as an original YouTube creator?
I think it's not really. Yeah, it's like kind of controlled by like demand, right? And what technology is pushing as that demand. So for me, it just has become something I'm less invested in over time, because I put a lot of energy into making those YouTube videos. They'll stay there, they'll do what they do or whatever. Things shuffled over to Instagram. That was like to me, an easier form of content to make for quite a while. So yeah, while I was having the time to do that, that was really cool. And yeah, now I'm not making as many videos or whatever, but I'm sure I'll come full circle around to doing something like that soon. Yeah, so that shift was positive in some ways. You know, it runs alongside what, again, that demand is. So people's attention spans like shortening and like wanting this like shorter form content that's like good and whatever. But yeah, there's also just a lot more content because it's shorter form and the quality gets like diluted as well. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's just a general shift that I have not much control over. And for me, it just changes where your audience is that you want to interact with or whatever. Yeah, so it's just another kind of environment to work with rather than like a thing that I have much control over. Yeah.
Sure. And you being so multi-platform, I mean, your videos do well wherever you decide to share them. So, but yeah, you're very good at the YouTube, format, as far as, we've already talked about how good you are as far as editing and filming and just your taste for longer form stuff. Your short form stuff does so well too, man. I don't mind catching a poi clip here and there, on the old Instagram.
Yeah, it's good stuff. And yeah, I guess that comes back to like the purpose for making the videos in the first place and what your intention is with it. And yeah, whether the form that you make and the audience it serves also serves that intention or not. Yeah, I think that's where your decision lays and should affect what you create if you do want to create stuff. But yeah.
So I was gonna have Joey ask multiple questions, but I had two really silly guys write in and ask two really silly questions. Bo wrote in and asked, "Is poi real?"
Very good. Is anything real, Bo? Is anything real?
Okay, and then you'll get this if you watch Mel's episode, but Mel's drops on Sunday. Mel's drops tomorrow. But Mel wrote in and asked, "Will you be Bo's poi daddy with me?"
If that's something that Bo wants, then yes, I can help you support this guy. Yeah.
The context is Bo wrote in and asked, "Will you be my poi daddy?" to Mel, and I asked Mel that question, and it's just coming full circle. So
yeah, cool.
I had to throw that. Shout out to both of y'all. Y'all are both hilarious little trolls. So
yeah. No problem with having two poi daddies. That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. We can split custody.
Yeah. Sweet.
So let's talk about your approach to training and learning. When it comes to like the time that you dedicate to poi and the time that you set aside for yourself, do you take a more like regimented approach to where you're learning specific things like juggling or certain idea that you want to tackle, or is it really for the large part more free flowing? You kind of just bounce ideas off of yourself and you're just playing around, or is it more rigid?
Yeah, I try and do something more like what I teach people as like a good way to structure training sessions and stuff like that, which is pretty straightforward and similar to what other people that train a lot seem to do, is like some kind of structure like this. But kind of catering to your being a human and structuring your training session around your like needs and energy and that kind of thing. So when you begin a training session, you've got maybe some kind of warm up, whatever that is, which, for Bo is like going into his like hard tricks straight away. And then for other people, it's like doing wrist exercises or whatever your body needs, to then train really hard straight away. So at the start of the session, you have a lot of like both energy and brain capacity. So either like things that take a lot of energy. So I chatted to Bo about this a lot last time he was here. But yeah, when he has that like large amount of energy at the start of a session, he'll do like the harder things to run that take a lot of energy. So like, big patterns and like high numbers and stuff like that. For me, it's like using my brain capacity and energy in that spot to do the things I need to think a lot about. So if that's like a new trick or concept or something like that I've noted that I want to explore, I'll work on that and try and find an integration with something else, or like a combo or like a symmetrical like pattern or pathway, and structure my session with that at the start, and spending the bulk of my time and energy on that creative exploration that's very intentional about finding something new. And that's always my focus in training, is finding something new, which I think reflects in whatever the kind of content and videos and stuff that I make. That's my first section. And then second section would be, you get a bit more tired, you have a bit less energy, whatever. So either like you can continue working on that new stuff, but just like more theoretically, or like thinking about stuff or writing stuff or whatever, or getting into like a drone mode where like you don't have to think about whatever it is you're doing. And then like, for me, that's where I slot my juggling patterns and things that I just need to build muscle memory with. So I'll do all that repetitious practice at that point in time. And then beyond that, it's kind of like the end of the session. So either, recording what you want to remember what you've done that particular session, because your memory is terrible and your phone can have a longer lasting, more accurate memory than your human brain has. That's handy. Or writing down stuff. So if you wanted to like, visually explore on paper or like diagram, like where that trick fits in with other stuff, or just like a list of like what you've done or whatever, something you can refer to later to like continue that exploration, or remember what that session was about or what you learned or whatever. So for me, that's usually a video, usually like filming something. So it's like squared away and something I can upload so I can look at it later, and not just lose it in my phone in like that old camera roll of videos. Yeah.
Interesting. I like that you said that because I forget what I'm doing all the time. So I probably need to film a little bit more. I don't ever really film just me fucking around anymore. I guess I probably should, because damn, when I do something and I immediately forget what I'm doing, I'm like, dude, what was that? And you try to put yourself in the same. You're like, okay, where was I setup wise? What was I doing? And then it's just gone, and you have no idea how many cool things I've done that are just fucking gone. I'm like,
uncountable, right? But yeah, if it's not on video, then it's not real. Yeah.
Seriously.
I don't know if you talked to Mel about his like video tracking stuff over time, but like quite similar. I'll take like little clips of like a trick or whatever, or idea, then just put that away, and it's like sitting there on the phone for ages. But he was doing that for like his Poyo career, like from those early videos until now, and he has that compilation video somewhere on YouTube, I think, with all of those like little clips over the last like 15 years, and it's really long, really in-depth, like every trick is like discovered along that timeline. Really cool video, but just an evidence of like that way of record keeping, so that you have this collection of ideas that you can refer to or like, you know, reconsider later.
And what's really good about that is sometimes this doesn't happen too often to me anymore, but sometimes I get into a bit of a rut where I'm like, okay, what do I want? Like, I have all these things that I know how to do, and finding new things can be difficult. So almost you have to like, it's helpful for me to almost refer back to patterns that I was doing or ideas that I was playing with, you know, a year or two ago, and come back to them and be like, okay, what can I add on to them now? How can I expand onto this idea? So I think that's very interesting and important to do that. And I try to go back and like I said, just look at old stuff so I can try to refresh my memory and be like, okay, what was I doing 2 years ago that I could work on now? So that's a really helpful strategy. I feel like we should just be filming ourselves more, to when we get into that rut, we can go back, you know?
Yeah. There's that kind of learning as well. And all of that, I guess that's like about a training session, right? But there's also separately like your knowledge database and like all the stuff, you know, in general, and like how you're adding to and modifying that knowledge and structuring it, and like giving yourself like frameworks or categories or things that you can think about in a particular way, and then group things and link things and whatever. So there's that separate like knowledge tree that's kind of happening alongside like how your training sessions are like affecting that. Yeah.
So, and I mean, two poi is obviously very different as far in terms of spinning patterns and you know, contact. Juggling is just a different realm. But you're also very good at poi juggling. So how has your journey been with poi juggling? Like, as far as the frustrations of like, this trick took me a year, this trick took me 6 months to learn. Like, you have to put in so much more time into poi juggling. Like, you understand the pattern, but with spinning, it's like once you get it, you just get it. You just know how to do it now. So, but with juggling, you really have to keep yourself fresh, and you have to work on it over a long period of time to attain certain patterns. Like Seb's mess, like, oh my god.
Juggling is hard, right? Like, I was looking at videos when looking for something to send over, and like went back to like, you know, a 10-year-old video called Stray, which was from when I was in Melbourne for some random thing. And anyway, I was on a rooftop like doing some like little juggling patterns, and I was like, oh yeah, cool. I've been doing this for quite some time now. And it's just long to learn those patterns, especially when there's no precedent for it as well. So with poi juggling, there wasn't much around other than I know Bo posted that like quite old circus video of that guy juggling 5 meteors. Can't remember his name, or 7 meteors.
Ruslan Fomenko.
Yeah, this guy. Yeah, super cool. But you know, there was only like that example, and that was almost it of poi juggling for such a long time, until kind of recently, when people were starting to make some juggling patterns work. Like Willow and Caden were doing like some zero beat stuff, and Pi, and not many other people. Before then, Bo jumped in and started kind of diving deeper into that. There was also Dima as well. He was running 5 poi when I met him in 2014. I don't know how long he was doing it before then. yeah. Anyway, there's only a few examples, but now it's more prolific. So it's
a handful.
You can actually learn stuff that's already being done rather than having to learn stuff that's theoretical, and that makes a huge difference to things being easier to learn. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, like you were talking about earlier, just knowing that it is possible. Well, not even just knowing that, okay, sure, it's possible, but not only that, but people are actually doing it, so it's attainable. And I think of like now Armin. I think of like Chris, Kelly. I think of a few others, but I mean, really back then there were only a handful of people. Which brings me to my next question. This is a little fucked up here, okay? But if you had to choose, this is hard here. Well, let's say you had to choose 2-poi or 3-poi for the rest of your life, only one of them. Which would you choose?
Probably 2. Yeah.
Ooh, okay. I love that. I was actually like hoping you'd say that because, man, that's super, super cool. You have a lot more, like the variety of things that you can do with 2 is just much more massive. I think if you spend more time doing 2 or you've done 2 for longer, there's a lot more shit that you can do with it. So it's less limiting almost.
Yeah, it depends on your scope of what is 2-poi or what is 3-poi, I guess. Like, you know, if you're doing a juggling pattern with 3 and one's in the air and you're doing a 2-poi pattern, like, does that count as doing 2-poi and you have to stop doing that? Or,
I'm going to say that still counts as 3-poi because you still have a third in the air.
What if it's resting on your neck and you're doing just a 2-poi pattern? Like,
dude,
anyway.
You know what's funny? We were in the studio the other day and I was spinning 3-poi. And somebody's like, dude, I want to start doing 3-poi. And I was like, okay, and I just put the third around my neck and I'm like, look, I'm doing 3-poi. I have 3. I'm doing poi. I have 3.
yeah. Exactly it. But there's heaps of 3-poi that is that, right? Like, you know, you're just doing 2-poi one hand and the other poi is like doing a separate pattern that's like not related. And then, I don't know how you want to like refer to this stuff, but is it a 3-poi pattern or just doing like a 2-poi pattern and there's something else going on? Yeah,
that is some big brain shit. I would not, if somebody asked me that question, none of those things would have crossed my mind. So
I like the nomenclature and like technical detail.
I know you do. I know you do.
Yeah.
So as far as some people that you love right now, in the poi spinning world, it's okay if we've already talked about them, but who do you think is some artists that are your like some of your more favorite? And this is just off the top of your head. I know I didn't shoot this question over to you earlier. So who do you think are some of the more, prominent some of your more favorite artists?
I mean, it might depend like how I would be thinking about them or whatever. But there's stuff like I would still like to learn, that there's people doing that kind of stuff right now. So in that kind of category, there'd be like Bo with his juggling work, and like Voita with his 2-poi one hand butterfly work, the stuff there I want to learn, or Jeremiah with his juggling work as well. That's all stuff that, I might get to if I have the time kind of thing. And beyond that, I don't know. I guess like I was saying with my training, my main kind of focus with poi spinning is to create new stuff, and new stuff is hard to find that people aren't doing it, right? So anyway, there's
no, I mean that's a really good point. And Jeremiah doesn't actually get mentioned on this podcast at all, so I'm glad that you brought him up because that guy is really doing some special stuff with 5-poi right now.
It's done some massive hard work that no one has done. So it's great. There's a few people like that have put so much work into like families of tricks that no one else has attempted yet. And, because of that, they've got this unique body of work that, can't be replicated yet until someone puts in that same amount of time. He's definitely one of them. There's quite a few in like weird little subsets of things. Like there was a guy doing some tangle work that was like the most fascinating tangle work I've ever seen. He was doing like 3-beat weaves with like not a tangle, but like a touch or whatever you call like not a degree of twist, but things are resting on each other. He was doing like weaves with that stuff. And
who are you talking? Do you remember his name?
It was like Lizard something. I remember Willow paid close attention to it, and it was just really interesting to see this guy doing this unheard of like tangle stuff in like just Facebook poi chat, and no one was like doing it, and it was just this one guy. Anyway, there's like a few people like that have worked in these like specific like little family tricks.
Totally.
Or, like,
When I think of
yeah.
tangles, I think of Ben Cooper. We've already watched Gold Rush on this
Hell
podcast.
yeah.
But yeah, Ben, the Australian
Such a G.
homie. Yeah.
Yeah, I almost sent you that video as well because it was like it's just a nicely made video as well, and yeah, I appreciate and respect that guy a lot, and yeah, he's a close friend as well. So yeah,
Yeah,
really good
shout out to Ben, man.
have him
I
around.
chatted about with Ben very briefly about getting him on the podcast. But yeah, if you're watching this, Ben,
Yeah,
fantastic work again. That was just a beautiful video. I touch on this video quite frequently now when we talk about tangles or really specific
yeah,
ways of spinning.
yeah.
But yeah, just on the note of people doing very specific stuff with poi, I've mentioned this dude before, but for those of you who missed this conversation, this dude Jack Boynton with
Yeah,
fishtails.
I was gonna mention him as well. Yeah,
dude.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like in the Loop series or like a bunch of videos that he made at that period of time. Yeah.
Oh my god, this man does a fishtail, an anti-spin fishtail weave or fountain. Sorry, anti-spin fishtail fountain. Like, what the fuck, bro?
Yeah. So good.
So
Yeah.
insane. Yeah, but these little subsect, people just see poi differently and they want to do different things with it, and I think that that's a really cool thing that you share in common with a lot of these people. That you want to create new stuff, and it's not that you don't really love what somebody else is doing, but you love what you're doing more. And I think that that's really the important part, and that's what keeps us going, is finding and creating and discovering new stuff and building your own style. So yeah, totally.
Yeah, I think for me also that comes from the era that I had started spinning and the skills that I had at that point in time, like from around like 10 years ago or so, when it was easier to find new stuff as well. Like there was less done, and poi being like a super new art form, that was a niche I could like slip into quite easily, and it's really rewarding to make something that's like not been done before. And yeah, that was happening like quite rapidly at that point in time. So I got to like ride that wave. So a really lucky and convenient like situation where I had the time and energy and capacity to sit on this like wave of new poi tech for like for 13 years. It's
yeah. And when I talk to you and like Mel specifically had mentioned, I don't know if this was actually on the episode, might have been off stream or off air, but he said he described himself as being lucky as well, and in the sense that he started this thing when it was very new and you could just do something and it was a new thing. I mean, it was pretty wide, and we're lucky now in the sense that there's so much groundwork, there's so much foundation, so it's a different thing. I mean, the bar has been raised perpetually over the years that we've been doing it, but I mean, you got to be an innovator in a lot of ways, and your mind for poi and your creative, just the way that your brain works, created some really cool shit. So we're all lucky in our own senses, but yeah, it's a really interesting way of viewing it. You did send me over a video. We'll have Joey play it. I am not familiar with this artist. It's few and far in between that I'm finding people that I don't know at this point. But you sent you sent this video, and I watched it just a little bit off air, and holy shit, it was beautiful.
Yeah, totally. So I sent this because it obviously it's like quite old and quite for me it's full of new stuff, that was never done before, and no one had seen this stuff before. And this guy is like a very creative thinker with poi spinning, classical poi spinning specifically, the stuff where you're not like doing contact or letting go or whatever, but finding new novel spinning pathways, which is hard. Anyway, he does like a lot of stuff that was super interesting to me at this point in time and still now. And like, I could not perform this video start to finish, and like there's quite a few things like that from this kind of style and location and whatever. He's like a Russian poi spinner from Siberia. I got to meet him when I was there in 2019 as well, which was really cool. Showed me some wicked stuff. Just a wild spinner, a very good thinker. But it also comes from this era where this style of video was quite normal as well. The like tech blog in quotes, where people would just do pattern clip and then like next pattern clip, and just do that for like half an hour, and then you'd have this library of stuff that you can then just instantly try and just like go to the same time code and learn that trick, and then again and again. This is obviously quite similar to that style of video that Mel was doing at the time.
I was just about to say, I mean, very, very similar to Red Pants, and even almost stylistically as well. I mean, not just the way it's edited, but just stylistically. I mean, they're doing a lot of similar shit here.
Totally, and they're from like, I think, the same spinning culture where in Russia it's quite common to have like quite good posture, clean, solid ideas, and to focus on things that are like. This is kind of, I think, would contribute to that style rather than be like a result of it. But this guy is quite, strongly being of that mindset before like making these videos or spinning poi or whatever, I'm sure. But just having that, creative mind that then applies to that particular style that's popular in that particular country, and developing these things that are quite technical and hard within that very clean tracing-based classical spinning style.
Totally. And we had a discussion about body tracing and what even that means. But I mean, when I think of the Russian style, I think of this kind of stuff, the body tracing, like you were saying, great posture, and mainly spinning, like traditional style spinning, but taken obviously like tech to a next level as far as pattern work. This stuff is great to watch, and super satisfying to watch this video again. Well, I'm gonna have to find this guy. I wonder, do you know if he's on Instagram?
Definitely on YouTube. Not sure about Instagram. I haven't had a good hunt around or anything. But he has a few videos like this that are longer form, and then a few other ones that are about just like other show stuff that he was doing, I think.
Wow. Well, we'll have to find him on some medium, and we'll go ahead and link his stuff in the description on this YouTube video. But it's really cool. I love finding new spinners. There's so many. So of course you're not going to know everybody, but I mean, it's when you sent it, I was like, who is this? And I started watching. I'm like, holy shit, who is this?
No, it's good stuff, and like it's all because it's classical spinning. It's stuff that you can really expand on it quite quickly by taking it into that new context of like contact poi and whatever, integrating it with lots of other stuff. And because it's that base level of like pattern or technique, it just applies to everything else you do, like pathways and patterns. And
I wonder if he does he have the finger loops? Do you think that's what he has?
That's what he's using right here.
You never see those anymore.
They're also chains and like with balls in the end. They're like before the era of contact poi.
I forgot to write down this question, but tell me about your tethers. Why do you choose to use loose tethers still, and do you not like static tethers?
My tethers are like now like a static tether, or the black ones on the ᴰᴅ poi that I've been using. Okay. So they've been like that for like maybe 3 years or so.
Okay. I guess I'm just behind the times, man. I don't know.
No, that's so good. Like I think in those 2019 videos I had cotton tethers still. It would have been just after that I changed my setup. I don't know. I was using cotton for ages because that was the style of poi that I was making and selling at the time. And then I tried Chris's static poi at what's it called?
EJC?
No. In the US, down south. It was the U as an acronym. Oh my god, my brain can't get it. Anyway, in the desert there, Cody was running that festival. Anyway, met him there, Justin Hind, and a few other people. Really good time. And
hell yeah, I grew up with Justin.
Good dude. Very good dude. Spun his poi there. They were super heavy and like static, and I think he still uses these like super heavy poi, which is like cumbersome to use, but the tethers were like really unfamiliar and heavy and strange, and like spun them for a little while and was like, this is interesting. He also had quite long poi, and I had like a bit shorter poi at that point in time as well, so they were just like unfamiliar. But that was like the first time I tried static tethers and was like, that could be useful for like some stuff. And then saw a lot more of the juggling patterns coming out, and I was like, that'll be super useful for that, compared to like cotton tethers that kind of have a lot of flex and rebound and whatever. It does definitely change your spinning style though, like going from something that's soft to something that's like quite firm. And I don't have as much of that like quick whippy, like strange stuff that you can do quite easily with cotton tethers. At least just the pace of the tricks and the rapidness of like cycling between them is like a bit different. But it helps for heaps of stuff as well. I'm just very used to them now.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you mentioned style, because typically I encourage people to use like longer poi rather than shorter poi. So that's just my style. But when I see you and the way that you're using short poi, length directly affects like how slow or fast something can happen. So like shorter poi typically are going to be quicker. Longer poi are typically going to be, obviously take more time, a longer duration. But yeah, your short poi, or shorter, on the shorter end of the spectrum, you make it work so well. And yeah, again, it just goes down to the timing and what you prefer to do with poi. Having shorter, you're able to do these quicker patterns. So I think it's really, really cool and interesting the way that you've kind of taken that approach.
Yeah, so they change speed, but also how they line up anatomically as well. So yeah, it changes some things like, how much tether wraps when you like roll it over your elbow or whatever, and all that kind of stuff. So mechanically, it does change a few body mechanics as well. Like, I don't know if you know Chris's, you probably do, his like double contact roll thing, where one's like stuck up here and he'll do a roll and then push on forward. So I learned that probably the last time that I saw him at Equilibrium, and it's just like much easier with slightly longer tethers, because the space you have to reach, like with shorter tethers, changes their like angle of arm path relative to where you want the poi to roll. So longer tethers just make that easier naturally. So it directly affects like some tricks and things that rely on anatomy, but besides that, it doesn't matter at all.
That's one of the reasons that I had to make my poi, or my 3 poi set, a little bit longer. I think I'm finally at a spec where I'm comfortable with, because I got tired of having different specs for 2 than I did for 3 and 4. And I was just, was like, okay, I'm sick of it. We got to just find the middle ground between these 2 sets that are wildly different. And I finally put together something to where I'm like, okay, these can be my 2 poi and my 3 poi now. And I don't have to switch and change my poi. It just got exhausting. So, but yeah, I had to make them longer because of the length of my arm and the certain patterns that I wanted to do. But yeah, so, and I'll really quick, this will be the last one that we watch, but Joey's going to pull up the Equilibrium fire set that you did. This is one of my favorite fire sets. It's so good, dude. How was Equilibrium? How was it being at this festival?
Yeah, it's so good. I don't know if you know Tesla super well or not, but yeah, he was a great guy to meet and to relate to in a music sense, which I hadn't gotten to relate to like a festival organizer in that way before. So this festival is like obviously unique in a few ways. At this particular one, they had the Incendio guys doing like LPG gas effects and stuff as well, and the Travel Routes guys doing decor and a whole bunch of other cool stuff. But he's got a different balance of festival compared to other festivals. You're laughing at that intro.
Dude, no, I'm just blown. I've seen this video so many times, but dude, just the swag level, the prestigiousness of this burn was just truly fucking spectacular, man.
Yeah, I loved it. Hey, it was such a high energy festival. Again, for reasons, but
one of my favorite moments from this is watching you and Chris do that battle at the end, when everyone was just sit back and watch them and let them battle it out. That shit was insane.
That was actually a different year, I think. Not this one, but the year after. So I went there a couple times, which was also sick. We got to meet another bunch of like really cool producers that I'd like never met before, and so Tesla has this like festival balance where he like books a proper music lineup, and like they're actual famous DJs that have like performance writers and stuff like that, and does all of that stuff to like really contribute on a great way to the feel of the festival, because it has high quality music production, and like it's just something that you don't really see as often in fire festivals. Like they'll often book like local artists or whatever. They won't like invest in like an international lineup of DJs. And
oh man,
and his music taste is just really similar to my music taste, and because of that, I like had this wicked time in this like awesome environment surrounded by all this music that I quite love. And
You have a
It's native.
fantastic music sense. I was thinking about this yesterday when I was watching the compilation of the videos we've already discussed.
Yeah.
And I was watching it and I was like, dude, I'm gonna ask Tim off air to please send me a list of jams because so I can understand how you would be stoked on the lineup. Because you're very much you have a huge musicality sense. And so I can understand why that would be a huge plus for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, just having someone that like favors that at a festival made the whole vibe of the place like quite nice. Yeah, obviously like flew me out as well. That's like a massive like plus in my books to enjoying the time there because I actually got to make it, you know. Yeah, and then got to hang out in California a bunch, and yeah, just some good
super
times.
cool. So when's the next time you're coming back to the States? Do you have any kind of trips planned, or do you have any idea?
Yeah, I don't know if you heard about the last time I tried to go to the US, but I got turned away at the border in LA. Yes, because they assumed that I would be working in the US, and yeah, they denied me entry. So I got flown back to Australia after spending like maybe 20 hours in transit getting there, and then about 6 hours in interrogation, and then getting put on a plane home. Yeah.
Bro, I'm so upset.
I mean, it was definitely a hard time, and like I think reflective of mostly the government at the time. There, this was like prime like Trump era, and stopping immigration, which also stopped just
find the man responsible for denying Tim access to the United States. Damn you, whoever you are, sir.
Yeah, so if I go back there at some point, I'll have to go through that interrogation process again and like apply for a visa rather than using the visa waiver program that Australia and the US has in place as well. So it'll just be a bit of a process, but yeah, can likely happen, but don't have current plans. Yeah,
we're just gonna spam request this man get his visa figured out. Please, Tim, please get your visa figured out. That's a bummer. I don't blame you at all for not having, I mean, it's difficult, I'm sure. Next time you're out.
The other like contributing factor is obviously like COVID and how that affected events around the world, and events having put in money to festivals that got cancelled, and then having no money as like a bank to like invite and fly people out and that kind of thing. So yeah, like pre 2020, there was heaps of places that that just contact me out of the blue and be like, hey, do you want to come to this thing? We've got like this on offer, and I'm like, yeah, cool, all right, I can do that. But yeah, since COVID hit, there's just been like zero of that. So man, just the times have changed, and it's festivals I think are just saving up money again and like starting from scratch basically. And it took a while for these festivals to get to that point where they can invite international guests and pay for them, and that kind of thing. So that time period probably just has to happen again to some extent. And
we're just gonna put that energy out there to where it does happen. Man. Well, next time, I mean, you got to let us know. You got to keep us updated. I mean, even if it's a year or two from now, next time you come, we'll just have to make a trip out there and be wherever you're at, because I feel like there's people that come to the US where I'm like, I cannot miss that. Yeah. Well, man, we got through a lot of shit. I really appreciate your time. We can go ahead and start wrapping it up. Joey's going to throw up the tags. Hopefully y'all know where to find this man. If you know who I am, you know who Tim is. But just in case you don't, here's his tag.
Search Poi on YouTube. Yeah.
Truly, though. Support him on Instagram, YouTube. I think are your main two platforms.
I do have a Patreon as well. I don't really post very much at the moment, but there's a bunch of still exclusive tutorial content on there that's on mostly the unique stuff that I do. So that's what I've put up on there. Yeah.
So many unique ideas. I really appreciate you just being down to be a part of the podcast. It's been a dream of mine to be able to interview some of my biggest inspirations, and you're definitely one of them, man. So just really appreciate your time.
Yeah.
We'll go ahead and wrap it up. Yeah, dude. Yeah, it's been a blast. I'm glad that we got through so much stuff, and I'm wishing you luck in everything you have coming up, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Peace out, brother.